Welcome in to Farz Cast. We are recording this live on my Facebook page, and we are also doing this on the podcast. I've been doing this little thing on my podcast, so something new to start off. So we've done this with Eddie Law, one of my good friends. He does a lot of things, NFL, college football, MMA, blogs and podcasts. We also did this with Charles Goldman, who runs the Chiefs Wire website, and we're going to keep doing this until you guys don't like it. So we'll see how long that lasts for. But nonetheless, joining me right now on Farzcast is my good friend Melody McAllister. She is the author of this book right here, the I'm Sorry story. You guys can check that out online. I'll give her an opportunity to explain how you guys can find that. She is the author of that story and a good friend of mine all the way in Alaska.
Yes.
What's going on? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I feel like I'm trying to share it to my page, but I don't know if I don't know if I was successful. I'll try again in a second. I'm doing great. Look, I my favorite pair of glasses.
Oh, look at you. That's awesome.
No, it's great. I'm so glad for 2021. I know that our problems don't magically disappear or anything like that, but I always like the new year, how it gives that feeling of starting fresh. Like, oh my goodness, we made it through this year. Most of us did. I mean, if you're watching, you did. A lot of people didn't. So that's not anything to take for granted. And, there's some hope that's coming with this year. We have a vaccine, and just, praying that things, I don't want to say new normal. Everybody hates that word new normal, but listen, life has changed for us. It's not going to go back to what it was, but there is hope that it will start to get a better, we can travel again, for crying out loud. See people.
I actually just realized it's been 366 days since I've last been on a plane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like over a year. Okay. Wow.
I was flying back from Vegas just yesterday, a year ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was just talking about this in my intro. I mean, look, it was a crazy year with the pandemic and race and the election and politics. And I'm like, look, whether, you were impacted by this pandemic on a personal level, whether you had it or you lost a family member or your job was impacted, or if you lost your job, or, if your preferred politician won or not, forget all of that. Well, I don't want to say forget, but, it is important that we reflect on
that. My preferred politician won.
Well, there you go. Cheers to that. But, my thing is, make sure you find ways to be better, because everyone always says, oh, a new year, new me on Facebook, and then how long does that last? Definitely did not last well last year, but I think it's important to find ways to improve, not just individually, but as a whole, because teamwork makes the dream work. That's one of my favorite quotes. Teamwork makes the dreams work. But I think we have to find ways collectively to move on and find ways to be better, because I think, I discussed this last segment. I know you weren't part of it, but I was talking about how, we debated a pandemic and race. Like, why are we debating these things? Why are we debating things? And people say, oh, this is too political.
Why are we making them political?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are they political? They're like fucking human issues. I agree. Let's drink to that one.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Yes, for sure. What are you drinking, by the way?
I am drinking my Irish whiskey. My friend Amanda got me this beautiful. It keeps everything cold.
Are you drinking proper 12 Irish whiskey?
No, it's Jameson.
Oh, okay, Jameson.
For a second, I couldn't remember. I'm like, gosh dang it, I just turned 40. It's like,
you know worse. What proper 12 is, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's Conor McGregor, my Irish whiskey. I'm coming back to fight in January. I
like Jameson. Like, I just like it. It's cheap. It's not too expensive.
Why would you drink a Jameson? I will knock you out in an octagon. That's a terrible impression. Yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean, look, I hope people find ways to be better in 2021, because a lot of stupid shit happened. I mean, people were just wanting to kill each other for whatever reason possible. Like if you like the color green and I like the color blue, well, then you and I aren't friends anymore. That's just the way shit works, I guess. So, hopefully we can be better about this kind of thing. Because look, I mean, you've always got, young people looking up to you. And I think just some of the things that people say, and I agree. I mean, I think sometimes we do live in a PC environment where, some comments just get taken way out of context. But then there are some things that people say that are absolutely unacceptable. And, the way people argue and debate over the silliest things, it's just, younger people are watching all of this. Everyone's on the internet now. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds know how to operate,
It's true.
a laptop or a phone. They can see all this. So, we got to be better examples. But, I'm sure we'll talk about all of that here and there. But first, let's talk about your book, which, by the way, thank you for this. It is signed, by the way. So I appreciate that. And this is kind of a unique book because I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I will at some point. I've had a crazy 2 weeks. Trust me.
It takes like 15 minutes.
I know it takes 15 minutes. I don't doubt that. I have not watched.
Take it to the bathroom. What do you do in the bathroom? Just while you're going, read it
in the bathroom. How can people get the book, Melody?
Oh, they can go to Amazon. It's bit.ly/I'm sorry story, all in low caps. You can buy it off barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, and a couple of other at edumatchpublishing.com. But I would go to Amazon because it's always like reduced priced on Amazon. If you want to buy it directly from me, just send me a direct message. Or if you want a signed copy, I'm doing those. But yeah, like it's coming up on a year. This came right out like literally a month before everything shut down. I had so many good plans of travel and wonderful things to share. And, but I've got to read this story virtually to students, of course, all across the United States, in Canada, in Ghana, and
wow.
Germany. Yeah. So
you're hitting all the continents almost.
I know, right? It's pretty amazing. It's not like a bestseller or anything, but the kids like it. Like young people like it. I've read it to first grade, probably kindergarten, actually, all the way up to 8th graders. This last spring, a middle school teacher had me come back because she had like a whole group of serious middle schoolers that wanted to learn how to write better and wanted my feedback. And so we had this whole session on that. It was so amazing. And they appreciated my book. Like, I think it was in Nebraska. That's where this group was. And it was an all white class, but they were like, they really appreciated that my illustrations didn't show like only white kids. And, and I thought, wow, they have some really good teachers because I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in St. Joe Mo. And when I was in elementary school, I think we had like 2 Black kids in our school. I'm friends with them, but like I couldn't imagine being those kids, but I couldn't imagine, like you get into your bubble and you don't really think it matters because it's not a part of your daily life. And that was one of the things I wanted to do with my illustrations. And so I never taught, well, I did actually. Most of my years of teaching were at a school that was very diverse, beautiful, so beautiful. And my illustrator, my friend Rihanna Longoria, she illustrated kind of like was inspired by our students. And so, I just love them. And it's her first book that she's illustrated. I will say that the print in it this is a dyslexia font. This works better for a lot of people with dyslexia. And I think what you were alluding to earlier when you were saying it's not about being PC, it's just about being inclusive. And I know that people are like, oh my God, I can't be, PC all the time. Or it's the thing about we know better. We have excluded people for so long, and now we have an opportunity to be more inclusive. And that was really important to me when I wrote this book. And also my publisher, EduMatch Publishing, very important to them. And so I try to be as inclusive as I can. And even when we talk now, that's something, it's not about being politically correct. It's about being humane and inclusive. So
that's awesome.
I'm glad you said something. Yeah.
And by the way, because I'm still kind of learning how the whole, by the way, I can't remember if you mentioned this, but where can people buy this again?
They can buy it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, edumatchpublishing.com. Yeah. bit.ly/I'm sorry story.
So one of the things, and I completely lost my train of thought. Don't you just love when that happens? Especially when you're doing a live podcast. Happens all the time. But no, what I was going to say is, one unique thing, and I haven't, like I said, I've not read a book this short before, so it'll give me a good excuse to start doing that. But I was skimming through, and I did notice something unique that I don't think I ever saw this in a kid's book. It's been a long time since I've read a book this short before, but you've got like discussion questions and follow-up activities at the end of this book. I have not
Yes.
seen, I never saw that when I was reading books at a young age. Do a lot of books have that nowadays, or is this something you came up with?
Well, it was just an original idea, but actually, because EduMatch Publishing is like a publishing company for educators, I saw a lot of us do it. Like my friend Jeff, he did One Drop of Kindness, and in the back of his book, he also has discussion questions, and he has a couple of activities. And I thought that was so great. Like he's got a whole list of things, and we, of course, I didn't even know him very well when I got this book, and but we're teachers, and that's what we do. We're educators. And my friend that wrote this book, she is a counselor, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, there's just so many different activities. And so all of us that go with EduMatch, we usually have like activities that go with our book for children because we're teachers, we're educators. And I hope that my questions and my activities, I hope that it helps parents and teachers or even young people think about like the message of the story. And I wrote this when I was teaching fifth grade, like 11, 12 years ago. I didn't even have any kids yet. So of my own personal children. And of course, I've revised it over the years, but I wrote it to help my students understand why it was so important to tell people you're sorry. Take ownership, like literally don't say if I offended you or if I bothered you, like I freaking bothered you. I did this and I'm very sorry. And then, kids don't like to be lectured and yelled at all the time. So it was just a very easy way to help them understand that this is an important life message, and then it was a conversation that we always went back to. And in the discussion questions, let's say that a young person is reading this, they don't have to have a teacher or a parent. I mean, have you ever felt like Ryan, the main character? What kind of advice would you give to Ryan or someone in your class about apologizing? Do you always have to forgive someone? Can you only forgive someone after they've apologized? Like these are questions that we should really think about, because it's not like we grow up and we don't have these sort of issues anymore. Like we're always going to be dealing with forgiveness. And I think especially when people have never thought about this and they grow up into adults and they don't know how to take ownership. And listen, you and I live in the real world. We know that there are adults walking around that never take ownership for anything. They're victims. They blame everybody for all their problems. I don't want my students, I don't want my children to grow up and be those people. We've all been hurt by those assholes, right? I don't want my kids to grow up and be assholes, period.
Yeah, there you go. Look at you laying down the law. You mentioned your background in teaching a little bit. I know we talked about this the last time you were on the podcast, but I've got to ask, because I think when you came on, it might have been in September, August, somewhere. I want to say September.
I feel like it was October.
Or maybe October. Okay. That's how long 2020's been. So even though we're in 2021, but I did want to ask you, now that we're a semester into this pandemic, and I'm not including March through May or June. I know every school district opens and closes at different times, but how do you think school districts handled this whole year?
I think that there are districts that did very well. I think that there are districts that tried their very best. I don't want to blame anybody for doing what they thought was right. I just, here where we are, they had remote learning the entire semester and they kept wanting to go back, but our numbers, even here in Anchorage, just keep going up. So I'm not sure. Yeah. I haven't really been paying attention because I'm homeschooling my 5 kids, because there was no way that I could be teaching kids remotely and have 5 kids. Like, I just, praise God that I have other ways of having income coming in, because I was just not willing to do that. So I am teaching my own kids right now. And I work with so many educators, and, it varies. There are educators who feel very protected by their school districts. They feel like their voices are heard. But I think more often than not, unfortunately, most educators are feeling like they don't matter, like they're just going to be put up. They have to do their job. A lot of people don't have choices like I do. I have a privilege that I was able to take another year off and homeschool my kids. And, I know that there's been a lot of people who just couldn't do it. They've retired earlier than they thought they would, or they've just quit. The technology has been really hard. I will say that for all the educators I know, they've been doing an amazing job of teaching with the technology. A lot of educators have to do both. They're teaching kids in the classroom physically, face to face, and they're teaching kids at the same time on freaking Zoom. And I think that's ridiculous, but they've mastered it. Like, it's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Teachers are amazing people. I mean, seriously, I can't even imagine having that kind of responsibility. But they're doing it. Educators are amazing. I do think that educators are taken advantage of. They have a hard time, especially if they're working at home. Their hours have just been incredibly long because there's just so much to do to prep. And even if you're not a first year teacher, how do you prepare for this? There's a lot of teachers that this new year means that they're going remote because of the numbers right now. So a lot of people are going to be starting off the new year in remote. I'm lucky enough to have so many educators in my life that are amazing. And I will tell you, though, the babysitter that comes over every week so my husband and I can get the heck out of here for a while, she is a sophomore. So think about this. A big chunk of her freshman year was remote. She said she has not been contacted by a single one of her teachers except through a remind. Like, they have never called her. They have never reached out. And I think that is crap. To that, I am not happy about. If I were her mom, and this young person said to me, she called the school for the first 40 days. She had no idea how to get into her classes. She wasn't able to meet with her teachers on Zoom. There was just so much confusion, and they never called her back. Like, I am pissed off about that.
Sophomore in high school or college?
She's a sophomore in freaking high school. And she's so upset. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to graduate on time. And that makes me pissed.
Yeah. Do you feel like kids are getting the proper education through online learning?
Who knows? I mean, it's a freaking pandemic. Who cares as long as they're alive and safe? I mean, they're not going to get the same education that they did when it was face to face. I mean, the world is changing. What does proper even mean? I love, my friend Erin wrote this blog post, and she's talked about how, there are some challenges that we can't meet the needs to, through a Zoom. So don't worry about those. Do what you can. Think about all the things that your students are learning. You're learning a new skill set. It's unfortunate that a lot of the standards, and you'll see some of the states are like, we're going to be doing these standardized tests. It's like, we're in a pandemic. Who the F cares? It's so arbitrary. When you put it in the light of real life and the context of real life, some of this stuff is so arbitrary. It's ridiculous.
Did you, I know I sent you the link, but did you have a chance to listen to any of my podcasts with Jason Brown, the head coach
the one that cusses? Yes. Yes. For
those
I liked him. Jason Brown, you're awesome.
Jason Brown's awesome. I love the guy. I was really nervous talking to him, but then when I could tell. And when I did start talking to him, I'm like, it's like I knew the guy. The guy was so cool. For those who don't know, there's a really great show on Netflix called Last Chance U. So it's basically about these community college athletes, or specifically football players, who are in a small town with nothing to do really, but practice, play football, and then go to their dorms and play video games. Whatever they're doing when they're not studying or doing football related activities. And some of these kids, they do have a rough background. One of the quarterbacks, he transferred from Florida State, was a great football player, but got into some trouble, and he had to go to community college. So basically, seasons 1 and 2 were done in East Mississippi Community College. I can't remember what city. Seasons 3 and 4 were done in Independence, Kansas. And, being a Kansas resident, that was obviously very appealing. And some of the things they talked about, you could actually relate to. Have you seen that show yet, by the way?
I did. I watched it.
Okay. Oh, you did? Okay. So Jason Brown is on season.
I was like, why? You told him I was like a former educator. I'm freaking teaching. I'm still an educator.
I know. I'm sorry. I dropped the ball on that one. But Jason was on seasons 3 and 4. He did have a controversial exit. The way they portrayed his exit isn't as accurate as it came off, but I'll avoid that. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is I think that was one of my favorite podcasts, because I was going to talk to Jason about the show and sports. He's a
Right.
huge sports fan, but that conversation took a huge unexpected turn, and we spent a lot of time talking about education. And I don't know if
Yes.
you remember this, because after I had him on the podcast, I actually wanted to go back and listen to the podcast, and he's telling his players, he goes, look, I could not tell you what an atom is. He went
Yeah.
to high school,
He
college,
had like all these
just like many of
advanced
us.
degrees.
I know.
I mean, he had all these degrees right behind him.
Did you see what he asked me? He goes, do you see these degrees behind me? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I should wipe my ass with them. I'm like,
Right.
all right. Because I guess he said this on the show, but I don't remember this, but he thinks degrees are the most worthless pieces of paper on earth. What is your reaction when you hear that?
I understand where he's coming from. I don't think that they're worthless. I have friends, and I have a lot of African American friends who would totally tell you that they are seen and they are taken seriously because of their doctorates and their masters. So for a lot of people, it's not, toilet paper to them, and they would tell you how hard they worked for it. And so I think that if you can use them and it helps advance you in whatever you're doing, then it's not worthless. But at the same time, you're going to see a lot of people that will rise up, that will get great opportunities because of who they are, how they look, the color of their skin. Like it's, I don't know. I guess it's the context again.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it does depend on, and Jason mentioned this on the podcast when he was on with me. He said, look, if this is like for a very specific job, like, if you're wanting to become a doctor, okay. Yeah. I mean, a degree is certainly necessary. Me, for instance, my journalism degree, even though people think I'm a journalist now, which I'm not.
Kind of are.
Yeah, kind of.
But
contrary to popular belief, I'm not a journalist.
You kind of are. Like,
Not
if
really.
I want to know what's going on with the Chiefs, I don't turn into your stuff. I'm like, I'm not. Yeah.
Well, anyway, if there's a report from anyone, I always source it. But I mean, look, my journalism degree, it is worthless. I mean, it's as good as the toilet paper that people were going after. Let me just put it this way, and I'm not blaming,
some expensive freaking toilet paper.
Yeah, very expensive, yes. And I'm not blaming the University of Kansas where I went, William Allen White School of Journalism. I'm sure I butchered that. I don't remember the exact name, which is embarrassing, but shows you how much I learned. But here's my point. I'm not blaming where I went to school and all, but I'd say, I keep in touch with them on social media. I'd say 95% of my journalism classmates are not in journalism right now. Right. I mean, they're in accounting. Some of them might be working multiple part-time jobs. I was in it for a while. I liked it. I dated someone who, we met at KU, and she was in TV for a while, and then she got out of it because she didn't like it. There are a lot of people who...
Are you still dating her?
No. God, no. Thank God. But sorry for another time. Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
Single ladies.
Yeah. I'm not looking at date now, but what I will say is a lot of people were in that bubble where they wanted to get in journalism. They were excited to get in. And once they got in, they didn't really, I guess it didn't live up to their expectations. That was kind of the case for me. And quite honestly, I've had a lot of people reach out to me. They're like, what's your advice for, journalism? Because I want to, work on talk radio one day. I go, look, you are better off starting a podcast. And if you can do a good job with it and get it sponsored and work another job, you'll probably make more money that way. Because I don't know if I've ever shared this story, but I guess now is a good time to mention. So I used to work for 610 Sports Radio, where they air all the Royals games. And I remember I was training someone. I was 23 at the time. He was 26. And he was not working a job. He had not had a job in a while. His wife was making all the money. So I'm training him on the board, and the guy is not learning anything. He was showing up late. And by the way, this is like Saturday. He had to be in the studios, preferably a couple minutes early, but he had to start at 7:00 Saturday mornings. And he would show up 15 minutes late, and he goes, dude, I'm sorry, there was traffic. And in my head, I'm like, there's no traffic in Kansas City on a Saturday morning. Bull fucking shit. So this guy who would not pick up, anything, he could not learn basic controls on an audio board. And I asked him at some point, I just got curious the more I was trying to train this guy. I go, so why do you want to work in radio? You know, what's your story? He goes, well, I want to pay off my wife's ring. I go, dude, I'm making $9 an hour here. I hope you've got other income coming in because I've got 3 other jobs I'm working. $9 ain't enough. So, you know, unless you got a really cheap ring, good luck with that.
That's such a ridiculous story.
And the guy was not learning anything. It's like, look, when we save audio, so I'm sure every radio station does it similarly, maybe a little different, but you have to, type, the date and then underscore, the hour, underscore, all these things. We have very specific ways how we save files. And the guy was not writing it. Me personally, I can't remember shit. So I always write down things. And the guy was always showing up late, wasn't writing down anything. And, again, in radio, we have a very specific, it's very strict on time. So I told the guy, I said, look, we have a clock up there at 7:53 and exactly at the 30-second mark, you got to press the button to fire the outro and then the commercials. So 7:53:30, and I don't remember exactly, but the clock is there and we hit the 30-second mark. The guy's just looking around like he's not hitting the button. And I wait 5 seconds, which is a horrible thing to do in radio. I wait another 5 seconds and I'm breaking all the rules at this point. I go, dude, you're 10 seconds behind. You got to press the button. So look, now I ended up leaving 610 for a job with the Royals, but to my understanding, the guy did not last very long there. I mean, right. Look, I wish him the best because, I'm not married.
Maybe he has like brain injury or something.
It's funny.
How would we know?
I don't know. I prefer not to speculate on that, but look, it's just, I've worked in media and I'm embarrassed to say there are a lot of lazy asses in media. There really are.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of lazy asses everywhere.
Well, that's true.
Here's the thing. A degree is not going to make you any more or less lazy. I mean, there are people getting degrees that like passed with the lowest, like maybe they have D's and, I don't know about F's, but, graduate, like, look at this. There are doctors that graduated they're the last to graduate in their class. Okay. Yeah. They didn't graduate first. Those people are still getting degrees. I mean, to that extent, a degree can be worthless. It doesn't make you a better person. You make you a better person. Your degree doesn't make you a better person. Your degree gets you some door openings is what it does. But if you're a shit person, that degree isn't going to cover that up. Okay.
Okay. I got a question for you because you brought this up. Do you think grades matter? Because why are you laughing?
I love it. That's such a great question.
Hold on.
Oh my gosh.
Here's why I asked this, because I was not, and one of the things I wish I did differently, I wish I did take academics more seriously and try to have a higher GPA. I graduated high school with a 2.8. I graduated college with a 3.0.
Okay, so bad.
I've seen people with a 4.0 GPA. I'm talking journalism students. I can't talk for other people.
I was a 4.0.
That's
graduated
awesome. There you go.
With honors.
Nice. Anything else you want to brag about while we're here?
I graduated at the top of my high school class. I graduated at the top of my college class.
All right. Melanie McAllister, thanks for joining us. Take care. Have a good night. No,
okay. But that's good. It's good to say this, though. Let me give you some context because to me, growing up, grades were very important to me. Not because my parents put it into me. They did not. I was one of I was one of 5, and I probably had the best grades. Like I never got grounded because of my grades. Nobody told me to do my homework. I always did because I had this internal drive. And I was a middle child, so I was really largely not seen in a lot of ways. So making good grades was a way for me to be recognized, but also I loved school. Like I was seen at school. So I had a great public education. I cared about grades. Now, I graduated at the top, blah, 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 blah. That was not even my aim. I wasn't trying to graduate at the top. I was just always trying to make the best of everything I could do. Honestly, that was who I was. That's who I still am. Saying all of that, our grade system sucks. It doesn't work for everybody. I had everything I needed for the most part. there are so many students in our country, that don't have everything that they need. They don't have parents at home, or they don't find education relevant. There has to be a way of grading that doesn't exclude kids and the environment that they're growing up in. Um, and we talk a lot about the 100-point scale, and like, do you take points off if they don't write their name on it? I was an elementary teacher. So do you take 5 points off? I did that for years. How was that kind of grading helping my students? It's not. There's so many teachers that are like zeros. And like, if a student turns in late work, they're like, who cares? Turn it in on time or it's a zero. And they make, their students have like a 23% in their class. Like, are you freaking kidding me? They've showed up every single day to class and they have a 23%. How can they ever recover from that? Are the grade point scale, like 100-point grades, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, and there has to be something that's better that I think that our school system in so many ways is so arbitrary. We're still doing things that they did 200 years ago. There are some things that need to change because we are not the same country that we were 200 years ago. And we need to be better. We need to think about who's in front of us right now. What does life look like? And even the grade point scale, how can we change that to meet the needs of our students? Are we giving them time? Are we using the grade to penalize students, or are we letting it reflect what they really know? Because there's a big difference in that. If we want grades to say, hey, this kid is they're above average, does their grades show that? Or are they just like turning in late things and they're barely passing? Does that make any sense to you?
No, it does. When I was in high school, I've had people, different policies. Some would accept late work, full credit, some wouldn't. What's interesting is, I just remembered this. I remember in one of my journalism courses, I don't remember exactly what the activity was. It was a homework assignment, and we all got our grades back, and it was there were multiple people grading things. We were meeting in different groups, and then we'd break out into different groups. So I remember my teacher was handing our grades back for our homework assignment, and he hands something to me. He goes, I did not grade this. I just want you to know. And I see I got a 0 out of 5 on this. I'm like, what? And I share this with, the people sitting next to me. I go, can I compare my answers to yours? I wrote the same goddamn answers. And these people got like 5 out of 5. I got like a 0 out of 5. I don't know if this person hated me or what, but I showed these people, and everyone was like, you need to talk to whoever graded this and fix that. And I'm like, I will. And they're going to fix it. They don't have a choice. So, it's just things like that. Like, I don't know if teachers get lazy to the point where, they're grading too many papers. They're just lazy, or I don't know if they were drunk when they did this. I don't know. But, I'm not kidding. It's a serious thought, but, it's like, how is it that, sometimes you have this in education? I don't know. I'm ranting at this point.
That's shitty that happened to you, and I hope that it got changed.
It got changed. Yeah. Trust me.
I had a talking to one of my professors in college in a math class, and I'm like, I had an 89, and I'm like, dude, like, you said that you would give partial credit if we showed our work, and I'm like, I'm not leaving this class until you change it to a 90 is what I said. And I didn't. He changed it to a 90. I didn't leave until he changed it to a 90.
Look at you.
And then I was doing this this was a small town, and I remember I saw him at Walmart. I was with my cart, and I was like, hey, doctor. And he went the opposite way. Like, he's like, true story.
She was going to complain about that 89%.
I'm like, I told him I'm not leaving this class until you change this to a 90. And I was very firm with that. But anyway, I'm not going to say that teachers are lazy. I love educators. And I think for the most part, educators are amazing. They are hardworking. I think that the system really puts a lot of stuff, like, I think a good teacher is always going to say, like, oh, this student has a 50. Well, this student is doing this, this, and this. This student should not be failing my class. And they're going to do something about that. they're not going to let like a number define a student. I think really good teachers understand that, and they, they work it differently. Okay. I think people that are just doing it as a job and they're not really worried about the relationships or the labels that impact students, they probably aren't going to be as worried about that, to be honest with you. I think that college classes, and I think that a lot of professors, I think they abuse students. And I've heard other educators talk about this because they're like, well, this is my class. This is how I do it. I don't really care, and they've got away with that for so long because it's college and you're supposed to meet all these standards. Well, that person is a shitty teacher. If they don't care about the relationship with the student and they don't care about how something impacts their students, I wonder what the hell they're in this business for anyway.
Well,
okay?
unfortunately,
is it because of their own ego? Is it their ego, or are they really trying to make a difference in this world?
I think there are a lot of professors like that. Well, I don't know if I should say a lot, maybe more than we should. There are too many of those. I don't know if you know who Scott Parks is. He's a local radio host in Kansas City. My mom, excuse me, listens to his show with Dana Wright. Dana White's the president of the UFC. But he made a very interesting comment once where he was just kind of taking a jab at professors because they think they know everything because they're the professor. They've got all the right answers. They're the know-it-alls, whereas no one else does. What's interesting? You made a very interesting comment. I remember I had a high school history teacher, super nice guy. He was one of the assistant coaches for the basketball team. And he was sharing a story on the first day of school about how, some of his colleagues were not necessarily bragging, but it seemed like they were proud of the fact that they handed out 3 or 4 Fs. And he responds and goes, I handed out 0. It's like, you need more of those educators.
Mm-hmm. That's the difference. And I think that, and I've seen that. I have literally had classes in high school and college where I just regurgitated exactly what they told us to. And I got an A on a paper. You know what I mean? Like I knew them. Like I'm a people person and I watch. Like I sit at the front of the class. Like I want to know, what does this professor expect from me? Like, and that's what I'm going to do to get my grade. I just learned that very early on. It's the people who brag about giving Fs, giving zeros. Those are the people who are in it for their egos. And I mean, the people that, like the other professor that you were saying, that is like thinking about, hey, these kids are paying thousands of dollars to attend this school. Like,
to be fair, that was a GTA. Now that I remember that, so maybe she was just a terrible GTA. I don't know.
What makes her terrible? Because she doesn't want to hand out a 0. I don't know. Like, I don't want to be cruel about people, because I think that education is amazing, and I want to believe that there are mostly wonderful people in our business, whatever level. I do think that there are people in it for their ego, and that is what you see when you see people bragging about failing people.
Yeah
I want to be one of those people. I don't want to fail anybody.
That's good.
And I don't want to take anybody by surprise. I don't want my student coming in, or their parents coming up to me at the end of a semester saying, oh my God, I didn't know I was failing. Like, there's communication. There's things called using a telephone, an email, and just reaching out to people to help so that doesn't happen, and giving people chances. I mean, it's not as easy as all that, but if it's a part of how you operate, you're going to find a way to help your kids succeed.
In the show Last Chance U, do you remember the quarterback who was failing art class?
I don't. Tell me.
Okay, so his name is Malik Henry. I don't know what he's up to nowadays, but he was basically not showing up to art. And then Jason Brown on the show, because he had this kind of a cool rule where if you're failing, they make you wear pink jerseys during practice, and which I think is funny. But the failing part's not funny, but the pink jersey is. And then there was the quarterback of the team, of all people. He was not showing up to class, and therefore he had an F in art. And
crap.
Well, Jason Brown's calling him out in one of the football meetings, and goes, "Art, you fucking kidding me?" And I don't remember. I'm paraphrasing here. He goes, "Draw a fucking picture. I'm sure you'll pass the class." It's like, I don't know why. I just thought that was funny. It's like, things like that. So my question is this, like, if you were maybe not a football coach, but if you were like a tutor for athletes in a situation like that, and they're failing, a class like art or PE or whatever, like, how do you approach that student? Like, what's the first step in trying to fix that?
Well, I'm glad you said that because we oftentimes put too much responsibility on the teachers or professors when there's a whole other person that's involved. And I have been guilty of working harder for my students' grades than my students at times. So I'm one of those teachers that has done that. Now, when you're in college and you're failing art, I mean, come on, that's all on you. If you're not showing up for class, that's not a teacher problem at all. That's a student problem. And I remember even in high school, having friends that were failing PE. I loved PE because I loved playing games and stuff, and I loved sports, but like because they wouldn't dress out. So if I were helping somebody with that, I guess I would just say, I would talk with them. If I were their teacher, I would say, look, you've got all this on the line. Do you really want this to fail you? Do you want this to be a part of your story? Why are you allowing yourself to fail here? And what is your long-term goal? Because if this is going to keep you from having that goal met, then let's talk about, you might not think this is important, but it is important. Or does that person have an ego problem? They're just like, who the F cares about art? I mean, why did they take that class in the first place? Those kind of things I think are more of a personal nature. I don't know, because here's the thing. If you think something's really too hard and you're not prepared for it, whether you're in college, whether you're in high school, you can get that class dropped. You don't have to wait until you're failing. Like if you already know it's not something that you can do, or it's not something that's interesting to you, drop that class and take another class. Don't get yourself to that. So I like the pink jersey idea, because I do think at some point there has to be accountability also with the individual student. And I don't want to act like art is like, who cares about art? Because there's a lot of people that do love art, and art is a big part of our culture. So you should care about it. And if you took it, freaking show up.
I always chuckle when I hear the word dropped classes, because I remember when I was at Johnson County Community College, I was just sitting, out in the hallway waiting for my class. I was there early. And all of a sudden I see the student in the middle of her class step out. And she had her backpack, everything. She's leaving, and she's on the phone, I'm guessing with her mom, dad, I don't know who. And she's talking about how she's going to drop the class because she's not doing well in it. She just got a paperback with a bad grade. She goes, yeah, I'm going to drop the class. And she's walking by, and I'm thinking in my head, the drop deadline is well past. It's like,
it's true. You have to do it in a very timely manner.
Yes.
I remember.
I don't think students know that sometimes. I think they just think you can drop whenever. I don't think they know there's a deadline.
Yeah. And I think too, that like, that's kind of like a guidance thing. I know that when I went to Missouri Western for my freshman and half of my sophomore year, and my counselor, what do you call them in college? What are they called?
Yeah, counselors, I think.
No, I don't think
academic
they're called
advisors.
counselors. Yeah, advisors. Yeah. I had a really cool advisor. Like, it was a big school, and she helped me take some classes. I took some classes that weren't even freshman level. And she was like, I don't think you want to take these classes. And I'm like, no, I want to take these classes, She's like, well, usually seniors take this class. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be a teacher. So do I have to take this class at some point? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then just let me take it. And I'm glad I did, because they were good classes and I liked them. But I think that good advisors can help you. I loved my advisors there. And in high school, I had amazing guidance counselors. And I don't know, my parents weren't super involved in any time that I took classes. I always made my own schedules, and so that was a personal thing. And here's the thing, if you've got different kinds of students, and you've got like students that their parents are like controlling everything behind the scenes. And you've got students that are very independent. They're going to school because it's on their dime, it's their choice, and they're making it happen for themselves. And they're taking it a little bit more seriously, and they understand the ramifications, like what it means if they fail and the money wasted on that. So I think that says a lot about students too. In higher education.
I'm just monitoring some of the comments here. Lisa commenting and says, I was surprised my son's online school bumped their grade to 100 if they got a 50 or better, but I think that was a little much, maybe a 70. LOL participation trophy. Yeah, that does seem like quite a. I don't know. Was there extra credit on there? I don't know. That's
Well, I've read some articles that a lot of districts are saying like we're not failing anybody right now. They just refuse to fail anybody right now because there's a lot of
interesting.
things they can't control. They can't. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. There's so many. What am I thinking? Um, God, what is that word? There's just so much out of their control, and they're not going to try to penalize students for things that they too cannot control.
Hold on, I have a question for you. Have you seen
Sure.
this report? And I want to say it was in Massachusetts. I can't remember, but it was like, um, students are going to, suffer consequences if they're wearing, sweatpants or pajamas during like their Zoom class. I just saw you roll your eyes.
I mean, that was huge at the very beginning of the year. Like cameras must be on. That was a huge debate at the very beginning of the school year, forcing kids to have their cameras on. That was huge. And teachers that have been teaching online for years are like, that does not make a difference, like a big difference. There was like, you can't be in your bedroom, and be in your Zoom class. It's like, here's my thing. How the fuck can you control what kids are doing in their own homes?
Well, look, I get
Don't
the whole
do
thing.
that. You're in their home.
I get the whole thing. Like, I think there is an emphasis, and there should be, to make sure kids are focusing. Because look, I could easily be playing, I don't know, Call of Duty, or just surfing Facebook or Twitter while Mrs. Smith is teaching math class.
And you could be doing all of that in face-to-face class too.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Well, I think it's a lot easier to stop that face-to-face, whereas on Zoom, it's like, maybe you can tell, depending, like if someone's like really focused on their game, I think maybe you can tell with their eyes or whatnot. But I get trying to control that, but I feel like there's also some ridiculous rules that are being put in place. I don't know. That's just me.
There's always been our education system. Look, I'm getting closer. I'm getting real serious now. Our education system
it's on
has
now.
So much control. Like we're always trying to control everybody. And now it's like, listen, you're a guest in these people's houses. Stop trying to tell them. Like I remember somebody put on Twitter, should I tell my kindergartners that they have to eat their breakfast before they get on Zoom, that they can't eat while they're in Zoom class with me? And I'm thinking, okay, number one, it's early in the morning. Good luck telling that kid they can't eat. Good luck. And she's like, well, I teach reading and I need them to be able to open their mouths and stuff. And I'm just thinking, like, and she's like, and I'm stuck in this, like I guess there was something out of her control. She had to stick to the schedule. And that's where I think it's all bullshit. Like, do you really have to stick to the schedule? What's best for your students? Always start there. What is best for your students and go there. Don't try to boss people around in their own homes. Remember that you're a guest. If you want parent support, and I believe that you have to have parent support, especially with young people, if you really want growth to happen, then how is what you're doing inviting that? Because if you're trying to lay down the law, whether it's face-to-face or remote, like that's all about compliance. That's not about learning or growing. And there's too much compliance issues happening in our school system. And I know because, I taught forever and I had to get out of that compliance type of teaching myself. I've been there. I've made a lot of mistakes.
I'm laughing because Brett commented, you've seen the sports page Savage Sports Memes, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, if you haven't, check it out. There's a guy named Brett. He's a big Chiefs fan in Texas.
Hi, Brett. He's watching. Hey, Brett.
Yeah, he's watching right now. He just commented. I'll read his comment in a minute, but he makes some really great posts. He always like comments with like the weirdest photoshopped just anything related to whatever I'm talking about in the comment section. But anyway, Brett commented and goes, "That's stupid. The article about the sweatpants, I already know both of you are wearing only your underwear right now, like everybody else on podcasts. I
have jeans on.
I have sweatpants on. I have sweatpants on. I have
jeans on. I have flip-flops on though.
Do students get penalized if they wear flip-flops in their Zoom classes that you know of?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I will tell you that at school they would have got penalized. You would have got a call home.
Oh, okay. I have a question for you. Because Jason Brown talked about this on his podcast.
Please, I wouldn't be on with Jason Brown. Jason Brown, if you see this, I want you to have both of us on.
I doubt that. He has no reason to ever have me on. I don't know what I can offer.
It's a
Maybe
pandemic. There's no reason to do anything at this point. It's just fun.
It's a valid point. I should talk to him and see if he'd be willing to go on your podcast, because I think you guys could talk about a lot of good things. So I'll do that at some point. I did want to ask, because on his podcast, he talks a lot about college students and, you know, their behavior and how, you know, if you do have a C, but depending how much, and you've alluded to this already, depending if you're putting the effort, if you're showing the professor that you are putting the effort, they'll bubble in a B for you instead of a C.
Heck yeah.
One of the things he talked about was, you know, you got to show you're trying. And one of the examples he gave was sitting in the front row and taking off your hat. Me personally, like, I love hats. What is it?
Who the F doesn't take off their hat in school? What?
Well, see, every school. I think in college, you know, they can't tell you what to do. I mean, unless you have like a big cowboy hat or something, I guess they're going to make you take it off so the person behind you can see. But, you know, I know in high school that was forbidden. But personally, I don't get, like, why can a person not have a hat? Tell me, I'm oblivious to this. Educate me on this. Okay. What is the issue with a hat? Because I love hats.
Okay, I know, right? Like, the only thing I can tell you is that I think it's rude to have a hat on inside. And the only reason that I think it's rude is because people told me it was rude to have a hat on inside. I just, like I said, and I have read articles about how our prison system and our school system are like this. They're so much the same. It's all about compliance and control. You've seen it. I've seen it. There's educators out there who are like, they're just always looking for the people that are non-compliant. It's like what drives them every day. And I've been in situations where I'm like making a big deal out of some stupid piddly little thing. And I'm like, why am I so worried about this? It doesn't really matter that much, does it? I have to talk to myself about this because I'm wired to look for compliancy issues. And so I don't know, like, just take your effing hat off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those etiquette rules. Don't you wear your damn hat inside of a place. Show you care. Show you have manners. Honestly, you win. You'll look better for it. You'll have better character, you know, a reputation for it. So I don't know.
Fair enough. All right. Hey, I was going to ask you, because you're in Alaska, which, by the way, I remember I saw you posted this. It's -0 degrees according to the iPhone app in Alaska. I was going to ask, by the way, have you had a chance to catch a lot of Chiefs games, considering you're way out of market?
I know. And I was looking at the game tomorrow, and it's at like noon my time. And by the way, if anybody on the Chiefs and Royals, look, I'm in Alaska, but I'm always representing the other side.
The other side.
I'm always representing my teams, no matter where I am in this country, whether I'm living in Texas or Alaska or Oklahoma, whatever.
There are no Chiefs players watching this. They have better things to do than watch my podcast.
I'm not just talking about players, but I do want to get my book in the hands. My brother, you need to help me get this book in the hands of some Chiefs players and some Kansas City. I love number 15 on both teams. I named my son Wit, okay? Because number 15 on the Royals. Like, help me get this into their hands. Anyway.
Did you see, before we go on, there's a local sports apparel store called, I don't know if they have it in other cities or states, but there's a place here called Shields. And instead of number 15 Whit Merrifield jerseys, they have number 15 Patrick Mahomes Royals jerseys.
I saw Whit tweet or post somewhere that he's like, wait a minute, what? That's me.
Well,
that's my number.
It didn't even cross my mind. Like, the best player on both teams is number 15. So
it crossed my mind. It crossed my mind a lot, honestly. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm just like, number 15 is my new favorite number for like 2 years now.
There you go.
So I want to be honest with you. Last year, I couldn't not watch. This year, and I think it's all about the pandemic because, you know, everything's changed. I can't go to a bar and watch a game. And I don't watch as much. You know, I don't know why, but I'm just not into it as much. Maybe it's because we're kicking ass so hard. Like, what does it even matter? Like, I'm telling you, when they go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to be fucking watching that. Okay. And I'm going to take my cereal box. So I'm going to be shaking it like I did last year whenever they scored a touchdown. But it's been hard to just to really get into sports. I cried. I am not gonna lie. When they canceled the baseball season for like the first 3 months, I cried. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna survive without watching my players.
I am a
And then
huge
I didn't
Golden
even
Knights
care.
fan. I'm a huge Golden Knights fan, and I lost my mind when they canceled hockey. I mean, the Golden Knights started off great when the bubble started, and then they like forgot how to shoot. But we're not here to discuss that. I prefer we don't discuss that. I was actually going to ask you something, because speaking of hockey, because personally, outside of like the United States national team, I did not give a damn about hockey. And then in 2000, and I think part of the reason is because Kansas City doesn't have a pro sports hockey team. They do, but minor league, I guess.
Right,
The
right.
Missouri Mavericks in Independence. But the Vegas Golden Knights got a team, and I go, oh, this is interesting. Vegas finally has a
But
sports
Missouri
team.
does, don't they have like, they have a team in St. Louis, the Blues?
Oh, the Blues, yeah. But that's St. Louis. That's not Kansas City.
Right. And who cares about St. Louis if you live in Kansas City?
No, I love St. Louis. I don't know why. People in Kansas City hate St. Louis, but anyway. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they announced the franchise, and I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting. And they became like one of the best teams during their inaugural season. So I just got hooked, and I started watching, and then like right away, I just started following. I prefer to follow, like, I can't tell you two players on almost all the other teams. I can tell you the entire roster on the Golden Knights, but I don't know anything about like the other teams. I'm trying to get into that because I just started watching a couple of years ago. I'm honestly surprised in this country with how much football is loved that people don't love hockey as much. Like, I think there are a lot of similarities to the sport in terms of physicality. Now, the scoreboard is not that exciting, but here's the thing. Like, did you watch the Chiefs game against the Falcons last week? We won like 17-14. The kicker missed. If you didn't see it. Okay. So it was a pretty boring game. It was a low scoring game.
Thanks for shaming me on here.
That's okay. It's all right. Hey, at least you're not like those Chiefs fans who complain when we win.
I follow the scores. I always follow the scores. I'm like, shit, they're playing and I'm missing it. What is the score? And if they're ahead, I'm like, good. Now, if they're just barely ahead, I'm like, oh shit, I'm checking it a little bit more than, but whatever.
Well, here's my point. That was a pretty boring game until the last, 2 minutes and all. But it's like in hockey, if they're not scoring, it's still a pretty exciting game. Like, there's still a lot going on in the sport. I'm just going to ask, because
people are still getting pounded.
Yeah, exactly. Like, considering you're in Alaska, like, how big of a deal is hockey to you personally? Like, do you watch it, or is it a big deal in the state?
I don't watch it. So I've only been here for like not even 2 years yet, but I will tell you that it is a lot bigger, and my kids love ice skating. And when my son hit the ice for the first time, now I've ice skated since I was little. Like, I started since I was little. Well, I was at least lighter than I am. But so my high school and I got lessons in my PE classes in high school from Central High School in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Oh,
That's
wow.
pretty damn cool. Yeah, they took us to
I've never
a
ice
skating
skated.
rink. Yeah.
I
love
my face.
ice skating. I love ice skating. I've learned it. Now my kids, we took them ice skating when, the world was still whatever. And my son, he just took off on his skates, like running down the rink on the ice. And I was like, we need to get him in hockey. Like, he will be an amazing player. And it is obviously bigger here. Now, we didn't put them in sports this spring, and we haven't yet because we're trying not to get sick, Now, I didn't realize that everybody else, they're still doing sports and their kids are still doing sports. And I'm like, shit, I feel terrible because we've all been bored, hating on each other here, trying to stay healthy or whatever. But when the world does get a little bit safer to be, and sports are, I don't feel like there's a liability for our health. I'm definitely going to put him in hockey. I'm interested to see how he does, because the way, how you've seen him, how they don't ice skate. They like run.
Well,
you know what I mean?
What impresses me is like hockey players will fall down and then they get back up. I would be breaking my ankle just trying to skate.
Yeah. Ice skating is so fun. You should try. Oh, you know what they do here? They spray they spray it with water when it freezes. So we go to our park that's, a few miles away from our house, and they sprayed this like round cement thing with water so that it would become like a place where you could ice skate. And then of course it melts when the spring comes and it melts, it's gone and it's just cement again. But they do that in the school parking lots. They do it at I mean, it's just crazy. And of course you can go on lakes that are frozen over and ice skate on there too. People do that. Isn't that crazy to think about? I just
Yeah,
think it is.
no, I I just think it's crazy to even attempt skating. Like no, I can't do it.
It's
I
fun.
will
You should try it.
look.
Try it while you're still young.
I
I'm
have
40
bad
years old.
knees.
Like when I fall, I break things.
I have
Not
horrible
there yet.
knees. But yeah, Lisa says no one in St. Louis cares about St. Louis, and Lisa says she is from St. Louis. Oh, okay, all right. Well, there you go.
Hi, Lisa.
So I don't know. Like me personally, I love the sport. I think I'm really shocked it's not as popular as because I was watching CNN's sports review, which was actually really cool because it featured you know, Patrick Mahomes a lot because they talked a lot about, you know, the beginning of the year, how it started off with Kobe Bryant's death. I mean, obviously that wasn't cool, but then shortly after the Super Bowl, and then that's when sports came to this, you know, crashing stop where, you know, everything was on hold. And then the whole talk about racism and what athletes tried to do with their platform, and Patrick Mahomes was a part of that. So he was featured on that pretty fairly often, which was great. But they did not show one single hockey highlight. Like, why? What is wrong? Like, why is hockey so low on the totem pole? I can't comprehend it.
Tell me, is soccer as represented as it is, like, as it should be? Soccer's pretty big.
Soccer is pretty huge in Kansas City. Like, people love Sporting KC. For whatever reason, when we were the Kansas City Wizards, no one gave a damn. I guess it's because we were sharing with a minor league baseball team. We were sharing a stadium with the minor league stadium. It used to take place in Arrowhead. I don't know. But for whatever reason, when we changed our name to Sporting and had our own new stadium, that's when people cared. Look, I think in some places, like, I'm just going to take a guess and say in New York, I don't think people care about hockey. I think in a place like Kansas City, certainly in a lot of cities in California, maybe Texas, because it's pretty close. It obviously borders with Mexico. I think those are places where, you know, people certainly care about soccer. So I don't know. I think it depends. And look, with the whole hockey thing, look, I'm sure in a lot of states up north, it's probably a bigger deal than it is in a lot of the southern states. I don't know. I'm speculating. I'm still learning about the sport, but I think it honestly, people need to get.
I think it matters like what they play in high school.
Yeah, that's a good point because I don't think there are a lot of high schools that have hockey. I mean, I don't know. My high school didn't. I'm sure there are ways to play hockey recreationally, but I think in terms of actual high school teams, no.
People did play where, like, I understand where you're coming from because I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up right outside of Kansas City. And so basically we have similarities in our culture of growing up in that sports way. And you're right. Baseball is everything. Football is everything. And then college basketball is everything. You know, that's how we grew up, you know, and celebrated sports. And then you're right. You go to other places and you find that, like, hockey is really good. There's another sport I can't think of, but a lot of like prep schools do it. And, you know, just wherever you go, the geography changes and so does the sports. And soccer in Texas was a lot bigger there than it is where I was growing up in Missouri. So, and I played soccer when I was a kid. So.
Do you know if high schools in Alaska have, what's the sport? Lacrosse?
Oh, that's what I was trying to think of, lacrosse. Okay. I don't know, but I know that in Texas they did.
I know in my high school did. You know what's interesting? We have 5 high schools. It was only 4 at the time when I was still a student, but we have 5 high schools in the district. One of the high schools has a rugby team, but because not many schools have enough students that are interested in rugby, they actually invited all of the students from the district. It's just they would all be playing under one name, and that would be, you know, it could be your rival high school essentially, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, rugby's a fun sport too, but you know, I just wish, you know, hockey was more, I just wish it was more popular here. Yeah. Accepted.
Yeah.
I don't get to decide that though.
Right. I think it's the opportunity to play, and I know it's big. I think hockey is big in Texas. Now that I'm thinking about it, my husband's friends, actually our friends, their kids were really big in hockey. It's also very, very, very expensive. Very
Oh
expensive to
yeah,
play.
I don't
You're
doubt
looking at
that.
equipment, and you're thinking about how boys, especially that are playing, are growing. Like they don't grow just a little; they grow a lot. You have to get new equipment every year. It's just, yeah. I know it's
What
very expensive.
what sports do your kids play?
My kids, I know this is so terrible. I grew up playing everything. My dad was like our coach. He played, made us play everything. My kids, they haven't been in like any
Really?
formal sports at all. I feel like I failed them. But here's the thing: like my husband doesn't give two shits about sports. He doesn't care. I like when I watch football or baseball, it's by myself, or if I have a baby. And right now my kids are growing up, so I don't have anybody to watch with me regularly. And I'm like, I can't do it all. I can't teach them school and teach them, sports. Like I got to have a break, but I feel terrible because they're not playing. So last spring, I was like, they have to start playing. I want them to learn what it's like to be on a team and to understand like the accountability part of that and practice and everything. And then the pandemic hit, and I didn't think anybody was going to do it. Like I thought we weren't supposed to do stuff like that. So, but my son and he likes throwing a football with me. He likes, my son will watch some baseball with me, and it's going to be what he wants to be in.
You know what's interesting?
And my
I
daughter, my oldest, likes basketball. She can shoot a ball. I did teach her how to shoot a
I
basketball. So
I came across the Twitter account for my middle school. I was just browsing and I somehow came across that, and I was pretty curious. I said, "Let me just see. Like, are they? I'm sure they take pictures of their students with certain activities they do. I just want to see, what's it like with are they all wearing masks? I assume, and they were. And then they're showing pictures of like the girls' basketball game, and even the basketball players are wearing masks.
I don't think everybody plays masks. I've been seeing pictures of kids playing and they're not wearing masks, but I
Oh,
don't know if
really?
it's an age thing or not because my kids are little still. So,
Hmm.
I mean, my oldest is 12, but I don't.
Look, I'd be complaining if I was. I'm one of those people, like, I sweat pretty quickly. If I'm jogging, 5 minutes into the treadmill, I'm sweating. So for these kids, middle school girls, by the way, too, wear masks, not complain, and play basketball. Meanwhile, the adults are debating, wearing masks and all that stuff. If the kids can do it while playing sports, I think the adults can do it too.
Right.
All
I
right.
think we all need to put our big pants on, one of our big pair of underwear pants. What do you call that? Our granny panties, and just like do what's best for other people. Right now, we're not experiencing life like we thought, like we hoped, like we even know. We're just learning as we go. And the best thing to do is to respect people, protect yourself, protect others. Just do what's right. Stop making everything into political, whatever a political mindset. It's about human beings next to you and how can you protect them and how can you protect yourself. Like that's what it's all about. And I think
Yeah.
that this last year 2020 glaringly told us that there's a huge population out there that just don't give two rats asses about anybody else but themselves and what is comfortable for them. So I know that's offensive, but it is what it is.
Melody, the author of the I'm Sorry story. Real quickly, one last time, in case anyone's joining us now, how can people check out your book?
Yes, and you know what? I'll put it in the comments of the broadcast. You can get it, the I'm Sorry story. You can get it at barnesandnoble.com. You can get it at amazon.com. And there are other little book chains that sell it, or edumatchpublishing.com. Um, but you, but I suggest that you go to bit.ly/ I'm Sorry story, all one word. And you can get it for like cheap. And also, I'm on Facebook. I've responded to some people's, messages. If you want a signed copy, I will be glad to send you a signed copy. I have PayPal. I don't charge that much for it. But I am a starving artist. Just kidding. I'm not starving. Hello. I gained 30 pounds this damn COVID crap. But yeah, I would, and I've been doing read alouds with classes all over the world, literally all over the world. So if you're a teacher out there and I haven't offended you completely, and you want me to read this to your class, please reach out to me. I'm very easy to get a hold of. So, but thank you for having me on your show. I'm
Yes.
going to tell everybody this. I consider you like my younger brother. Like, I just think that you're an amazing
Oh,
person.
You're
make
so
me
sweet.
laugh all the time. It's true. And like, if I can support you in any way, I will. And I just love what you're doing. I love how when people hate on you, you're just like, why would I care about you? Like, you're not going to back down. You don't need to
People
be
hate
saying,
on
I'm
me?
sorry about all that.
I didn't know people hated on me.
Oh, they're like, I'm going to block you, or I'm going to stop, liking
No,
your
I'm the one who
page.
does the blocking. I'm the one who gets accused of blocking people.
Yeah, but people are like, well, I'm not going to be your fan anymore. You're like, who
And
cares?
then they still comment, which is cool. But we don't need to give those people any relevancy.
What I'm saying is that you're not like, you don't care about that. You are a strong person. You're not going to be swayed by popularity. You have an inner character that I really admire. And I'm glad to be your friend, virtual big sister. So thanks,
Oh,
Farz.
you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Melody. Check out her book. Check out her Facebook page. It doesn't let me tag her, unfortunately, because of the way Zoom works. Hopefully they fix that one day. But go to her Facebook page. She does not a podcast, but some live videos. So check that out.
I do, and a lot of my friends have told me I need to put it in a podcast. But I do a lot of live broadcasts. Yes,
I can help you with that.
And
It's pretty easy.
I know how to do it. I just don't have. I have 5 fucking kids. You know what I mean?
Like, I fair enough. I can't say I understand that, but I'm sure that I believe you.
I can do it if I wanted to. I could do it.
All right. Well, Melody, check out her book. Check out her page. Thank you so much. We'll do this again.
Yes, I hope so.
All right. Take care.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Bye.